We all love Odyssey because of its great stealth mechanics. No, just kidding. But I've always wanted to try and do a full ghost playthrough of the game, so I did, and here are the rules. 1. I cannot be fully detected by guards, meaning they have to be unaware of my presence except for scripted situations. This usually means having the red meter show up. However, there will be cases in this run that the red meter shows up during mid assassinations. We will disregard those since they seem to be just visual issues. Also, white and yellow meters are allowed. Think of it as the enemies seeing a ghost. The second rule is that I can only kill quest targets. This means that for me to be allowed to kill an enemy, they need to have the yellow mark on their head or the quest directly says kill X. For other enemies, I can still knock them out as long as I remain undetected. However, I'll save this rule for scripted or forced situations. I'm also including a third rule. Getting spotted by animals and ships is allowed in the open world. This is because it would be too tedious to reload every time I accidentally run through an animal in the wild. However, for snakes and sharks, it is allowed anywhere since Ubisoft decided to put them where you cannot avoid detection. With these rules, I journeyed to beat Odyssey like a ghost. The run starts with a sucker punch from this bandit, but they were no match for me, so I let them go since I don't kill weaklings. However, they decided to ambush me on my way to my quest. Since this is a ghost run, I simply circled around them, avoiding confrontation. I then met up with Marcus, who gave me a horse. Then I learned that someone kidnapped the little girl, so I killed the kidnappers without being detected. After freeing Phoebe, I headed to collect a debt. He didn't want to pay, so I had to persuade him. After that quest, I got a bow which became a very useful tool for this run. So before going to the next quest, I did a side quest to test out the bow, while remaining undetected, of course. Now, I had to steal an obsidian eye from this place. I snuck in the side without anyone seeing and stole the prize without any problem. Escaping without being seen was also easy, but Marcus wanted more blood. So he sent me to assassinate some people. Being a good friend, I humored his thirst for violence. However, I encountered an issue with this guy. I couldn't assassinate him with one hit, so I unlocked the Predator's shot, which turned out was still not enough on its own. Fortunately, I have time to perform assassinate right after the shot. I then met Elpenor, who asked me to retrieve a shroud from this ruined palace. The shroud was in this guy's pocket, but Odyssey doesn't allow pickpockets, so I either had to knock him out or kill him. Before doing anything else, I decided to explore. While in the area, I decided to free this captive. However, I got spotted when I opened the lock. So, I waited for nighttime and successfully freed her. Then, like a ghost, I watched her enter the ruined palace, where she annihilated everyone in her wake, including the guy with the shroud. I looted the shroud from his cold corpse, and concluded a side quest with this warrior. I then returned to Elpenor and gave him the shroud, but now he is asking me to go to Megaris to kill the Wolf of Sparta. But first, I needed a ship. An issue I found with this quest is after this cutscene, I am thrown in forced open combat. While the rules allow this, the problem I had was that there were a dozen soldiers around and I only had 3 targets. So, I decided to run away and lure the targets on the cliffs above. For the boss, I had to shoot him with a bow to lure him again and kill him. I then watched Barnabas destroy some soldiers while on our way to escape. And with that, I am now a captain. To get to Megaris, I had to destroy some ships through naval combat. I then met Stentor, who told me I can get an audience with the Wolf of Sparta after destroying the government of Megaris. So I destroyed some war supplies by burning them from afar. This made some of the objectives easy. But for some, like Nation Chest, I still needed to infiltrate certain areas. Also, weakening Megaris required an optional main quest where I kill Athenian soldiers. But I decided not to do this since I didn't want to kill random guards. So I ended up doing side quests that weakens Megaris, like kicking this mercenary. I also met Odessa again and helped her by knocking out some enemies with my paralyzing arrows. After a few more side quests where I avoided being detected, Megaris was weak enough that the leader is alone and vulnerable. So like a professional hitman, I sniped him from afar to lower his health and finished the job up close and personal. Now, I can probably meet the wolf. Well, no, I had to go through this forced conquest battle first, before I met the wolf who I learned was my father. Angry, I banished him to walk the lands of Greece without his helmet. When I returned to Elpenor to tell him that the wolf was dealt with, he tried to get me killed. Since the quest didn't say kill these guards, I just knocked them out. After that encounter, I headed to an oracle to know about my past and where Elpenor is. Unfortunately, the oracle didn't give me enough information, so I snuck inside her house with the use of some distraction. She told me that the cult is meeting under some temple and I needed a disguise to enter the place. It also happened that Elfenor is a member and I could use his clothes as disguise. However, after killing him while remaining undetected and not touching any guards, I found that the guy I killed was a decoy. It turned out that the real Elfenor was hiding in this cave where 2 guards are guarding the area. After using 100 torches to distract them, I was able to get in. Here, I learned that Elfenor had spider sense. He was able to detect me despite having his back on me. I even tried reloading but he just sees me, so I ended him and took his clothes. I then escaped from the area and was able to enter the meeting place. Here, I saw my supposedly dead sister, who began beating up this guy to help me get out of the place. After learning about the cult, I met Pericles who could help me find my mother, who the cult is also looking for. But before he helps me, I needed to do 3 tasks for him. This involved bribing this guard to get to Phidias and schedule an escape at night. That guard I paid ended up betraying me but I was able to get out undetected. Since I had to wait for nighttime, I went to this next task where I had to free this guy from snakes. I ended up having to kill this guy who was level 17. Being only level 10, I had no chance of killing him without getting detected. So I ignored him for now and went to the next task that required me to steal from this building. The first item was easy since it was right on the roof. However, the second item was tricky since the entrance to the room was in the middle. I had to reload a couple of times and use torches to distract the guards. Eventually, I was able to get in and grab the item. The next problem was getting out. I was trapped in this corner and guards were all around me. But when this guard started moving, I decided to throw a torch to distract him and create a window of opportunity. It was close but I managed to get out undetected. Since it was already nighttime, I decided to go back to Phidias and take him to a nearby island. The last task remaining was killing the level 17 guy. However, I'm still too low level to do so I needed to grind some levels. I won't talk about all the side quests I did, otherwise this video will be 7 hours long. Just know that I made sure to remain undetected and reloaded every time I failed to go through an area. I also made sure to just kill targets only and knock out enemies when I have no choice. For full disclosure, I still completed quests that included forced combat. I just made sure to kill only the targets and use paralyzing arrows for non-targets. Also, I wanted to note that I ended up using the Call to Arms ability to distract enemies. This is the ability where a lieutenant attacks enemies. I learned that they have a tendency to run away when their health is low, becoming the perfect distraction for certain areas. Once I got to level 15, I went back to my main target. However, my damage was still too low. Now I have 2 options. I can grind again for higher levels and better gear, or I can just start shooting from a bush. If you don't know, shooting from long distance won't result in full detection. Enemies will just go to the yellow alert level. With this, I remain undetected while lowering my target's health. Also, one way to make sure that I am still undetected is when Alexios keeps his weapon sheathed when idle. So with this, I successfully assassinated my target. I then arrived at the symposium where I met Phoebe, who is now working for Aspasia. Here, I received 3 quests that will get me closer to finding Myrrine. I first went to Chaos Island where I met Xenia. She had information about Myrrine but asked for 15k, which my poor ass didn't have, so I had to do some quests to earn the money. I also encountered this quest where I ended up stacking soldiers in a corner to avoid detection after a cutscene. However, they still woke up and tried to find me, so I just fast traveled out of there. Once I got the money, I paid Xenia, who told me that Myrrine went southeast. Next, I met Hippocrates, who I ended up helping by kidnapping a guy. Entering this place and kidnapping was easy. The hard part was getting out, since I can't climb walls. But with some help from Icarus and some patience, I was able to escape undetected. After helping him, Hippocrates told me that I can find information about Myrrine in the sanctuary. So after doing some investigations, I snuck into this house like a ghost that I am. Here, I learned about the cultist Chrysis and what she did to Myrrine and Cassandra. Now, after the cutscene, I was spawned in the doorway and got detected. I simply reloaded the game and got out safely since I had a different timing this time. On my way to find Chrysis, I was ambushed by cult guards. Since they detected me, I reloaded to see if it was possible to ghost this part. I also decided to change gears since I'm going to use my bow. After I knocked them out, I was able to continue with the story. Chrysis then made me choose between saving a baby or killing her. I chose the baby. Not long after, I found Chrysis. I had to knock out her guards before I was able to kill her. The last clue for finding Myrrine required me to kill these thugs. So I did while still being a ghost. I then met Antusa, who gives me another 3 quests to finish. For the first quest for Antusa, I needed to get inside this house. So I broke the jar blocking the way. However, the door led to a forced encounter, which got me detected by other guards. So I reloaded and knocked out these 2 guards. I also made sure to pick up their torches, otherwise they'll burn the grass. I also discovered that the jar I broke was now gone. With all those taken care of, I knocked out this guy, as well as this soldier who went to investigate. The next quest involved naval battle and nothing too interesting happened. I just made sure to use paralyzing arrows so I don't kill anyone on board. The last mission involved freeing some prisoners and burning down a warehouse. Despite being undetected, I found myself surrounded until...
Come and get it.
And so Brasidas and I ended up taking out this man and completing the quest. Now, you may be wondering why we did all those quests for Antusa. Well, it was to defeat the Monger, cultist, and a bully. I faced him and his men in open combat inside the dark cave. After knocking out all his backup, I slowly took down his health with arrows. After a long and a bit boring fight, he was done. After learning more about Myrrine from Antusa, I went back to a dying Athens. Before continuing with the story, I decided to help burn bodies. However, after burning 3 or 4 bodies, some cultists would spawn. These guys always knew where I was, so I couldn't hide. But eventually, I found out that if I was fast enough, I could burn all bodies before they get to me, and they would stop on their tracks. I then met with Aspasia and Pericles, but then I learned Phoebe was missing. I found her being chased by cult guards. Despite my anger, I decided to knock out the guards without getting spotted, of course. But I couldn't continue unless I killed them, so I did. After saying my last goodbyes, I found another horrible scene. This led to a series of forced combat where I had to kill my enemies. After escaping from Athens, we headed to Nexus, where Myrrine is supposed to be. Right after arriving in the island, I found her. But the reunion got cut short when Athenians attacked the shore. At this time, my damage was still low. However, I have the Stealth Master ability which improves my stealth damage at night, allowing me to take out the soldiers. After that, I found out about the war between Naxos and Paros, so I had to help. I snuck into a cave to take out assassins who were preparing to kill Myrrine. I also needed to free her lieutenant who the Athenians captured. At first, I thought this quest was going to be hard since the fort was so big and I had to escort the guy out. But after breaking the cage door, the guy managed to sneak away and followed me down the rocks, making the quest super easy. The last task I helped Myrrine with was defeating the Athenian fleet, which proved to be difficult since I have not yet upgraded my ship. With limited resources, I upgraded my arrow damage. Fortunately, this was enough to win the fight. However, I still needed to take out 4 more ships for the last Naxos mission. I made sure to keep the ships isolated so they can't all spam me with arrows. And eventually, I won the battle. Since Naxos is now safe, Myrrine and I wanted to go back to Sparta. However, I couldn't because the level requirement jumped from around level 22 to level 31. Very funny, Ubisoft. So I explored around and spent 10 hours on side quests. Like before, I made sure to always be undetected. I also began using the slow time ability to make stealth a bit easier, the stun ability to escape certain situations, and kept using the hit and run tactic for enemies I can't kill in one hit. After 10 hours, I got to level 30 and headed for Sparta. We visited the old house but learned that Sparta has taken claim of it. To take it back, I had to do a couple of quests to get an audience with the kings. The first quest is assassinating 3 people starting with this guy. I simply turned the crowd against him, hid in this bush to remain undetected, and killed him quickly. The next guy was a few levels above me but I was sure I could assassinate him, especially since I have an assassin loadout, but I was lacking. So I waited for nighttime to get the damage bonus from Stealth Master. This time, he was in a different spot, but I was still able to get in undetected, kill him, and get out without a problem. The last guy was in Sparta. I simply whistled to lure him. Once isolated, I gave him a quick death. I also had this task where I had to infiltrate this quarry. Here, I needed to assassinate a traitor, which I did without getting spotted, and destroy 5 weapon racks which Icarus helped me do by distracting guards. I remained undetected throughout this mission but had a close call since I was holding a torch almost in front of a guard. With all those done, I met with the kings, who like the rest of those I've met, gave me 3 tasks before they gave me back my house. The first one I did was take Testicles to the Olympics. However, an accident happened and I ended up fighting in behalf of Sparta. In the middle of the Olympics, Alcibiades got poisoned and so I had to find a cure. I found this merchant who told me I can get an antidote from a nearby fort. But before I could leave the area, this guard would always spot me after the cutscene. So I reloaded and did some platforming. I was then able to get out through this window. I sneaked into the fort, stole the antidote, and got out before anyone noticed me. When I fast traveled back to the Olympics, I stumbled into an issue where a faraway guard keeps detecting me. After countless reloads, I decided to ignore it since it's a bug. I gave the antidote to Alcibiades, got oiled, and won the Olympics for Sparta. For my next mission, I decided to go to Arcadia. I met up with this mercenary to find out where Brasidas and Myrrhine went. But he started attacking me, so I had to put him down. He then told me where they were and that some politician placed a bounty on my head. After that encounter, I met with Myrrhine and Brasidas. Brasidas and I decided to investigate what is happening with the nation's leader, and found out that the cult has kidnapped his family. I then went to look for them here, where I found a captive woman. When trying to free her, I kept getting spotted, so I decided to approach the quest during the night and was successful. The woman told me that the family was being kept in a cave. This cave, where I was able to sneak into. Since it was nighttime, everyone was asleep, so I was able to free these two easily. I then snuck into this fort, where I used Icarus to distract a guard while I entered the politician's room. Because of my previous actions, I was able to convince this guy to leave the cult and reveal that one of the Spartan kings is a member of the cult of Cosmos. Before moving forward, I decided to complete one of the cult branch quests. I killed the leader of the Eyes of Cosmos branch using the bow trick, which allowed me to assassinate her and get a lot of XP. After that, I went to Boeotia to help Stentor win a war. He gave me a list of 4 people to assassinate. The first one was this lady, who I easily killed with the bow trick. For the next one, I didn't need to do anything since Nikolaos already did the work for me. The third one, Drakon, was perhaps the challenging one since I did a couple of preparation quests to weaken him. For example, I had trouble with this area since I couldn't interact with the door without getting spotted. I did a couple of tests and decided to just leave the quest for now. I moved on to this quest to retrieve a horse from some soldiers. I knew it was gonna be tricky since I had to ride out this area on the horse. It took a lot of waiting to get into my desired position. I also had to wait for the guards to move away from the horse. Once the coast was clear, I used Icarus to distract the guard looking at the horse. I then rode the horse and hightailed away from there. Side note, this was one of the best stealth experience I had in this game since I felt that I wasn't supposed to do it like this. Anyway, I took the horse back to his owner and attempted to try the herbalist quest again. I managed to ghost this quest by shooting this guard, which alerted almost everyone in the area. I then used Call to Arms to create a bigger distraction. I was able to sneak my way to the door and talk to the herbalist. I quickly skipped the cutscene before the guards came back in the background. Right after the cutscene, I used slow time and got out before alerting any guards. I gave the herb to this guy, which would lead to Drakon leaving his armor. To kill Drakon, I had to use the bow trick again. I managed to spam him with explosive arrows without being seen. Eventually, he was low enough for a kill shot. But instead, I recruited him to my crew. The last target is Nasaya. She owns a pet bear that I had to knock out first. Despite using the bow trick against her, I still had to reload a couple of times because she kept seeing me. But eventually, I was able to get her low enough to change gear and end her. With all targets done, I returned to Stentor. We then cleaned up the war with the conquest battle against Athens. After all that, I returned to Sparta to reveal who the Puppet King is. It was this guy. Sparta exiled him after that show, but I had to make sure he never returns. Since he had guards with him, I had to assassinate him from afar. I managed to confirm the kill while his guards were checking my last position. Not long after returning, Brasidas came to me to get help. So without hesitation, I sailed to the area where I had to fight Cassandra. We both ended up getting attacked by Groot and I woke up as a prisoner. But since I was the main character, I got out without a problem. I then met a couple of friends who were planning to take down Cleon, the new leader of Athens. One of the tasks I had to do was get information about Cleon, since we wanted to discredit him. To get an important clue, I had to steal a key from this soldier. Since I didn't want to kill him, I used Icarus to lower his health. I then switched loadout and knocked him out before a mercenary saw me. I got the clue from the chest and went back to Socrates to tell the people of Attica that Cleon is manipulating them. For the next quest, I paid these guards to leave an actor alone. Eventually, I found myself needing to kill a cultist hiding in Attica. Similar to everything I've done so far, I used the bow again to lower his health without being detected. I also used Icarus to deal the killing blow this time. Once the soldiers left the area, I confirmed the kill. With the actor safe and happy, the play to make fun of Cleon was able to start. Finally, Cleon left Athens and headed to Macedonia. I fought in the last conquest battle of this run, saw Brasidas fall, and was about to get a rematch with Cassandra when Cleon shot her. I chased Cleon and for the last time in this run, used the bow in a bush trick once more. Once his health was low, I changed to my assassin gear for the last time and dealt a killing blow. And that is how I ghosted through Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Looking back, a more intricate preparation would have made this run easier and less reliant on the bow. Maybe one day I'll try to go back and ghost Odyssey without the bow.